All right, check. We have video and audio. We are good to fly. Here goes nothing. Greetings and salutations, friends. Hail and well met on this wonderful Friday. It's a little warm for my taste, or was, but it was a hell of a lot less humid than it was yesterday, so I'll take it. And yeah, man, thanks for joining me today. I hope everybody had themselves a great week. I know I did. And I really hope that everyone's looking forward to a nice weekend as well. We're going to have some fun tonight, that's for sure. Kick things off right. And yeah, that's pretty much. I don't have a ton for the top of the show today. Let's get into sort of hobby progress and hobby news for me for the week. So I didn't get a ton done. Hello. I did not get a ton done this week. It was a pretty busy week all around. But I did get some stuff done. So let's see, where do I start? So the zombies from last week's episode, I have to one degree or another. It's terrible. All right, you know what? Let's go down to the desk and I'll just show them that way. Boom, done. Okay. So the zombies from last week's episode are essentially complete. We'll give them a quick little 360 here so you can see what's going on with these guys. There's a little bit of something extra I might add here or there. I gotta throw some bright silver onto the weapons just to show where all the rust was scuffed off from them hitting people with it. But and then I've got to put black rim on and finish up the bases on them. But otherwise, they're done. And I got those guys finished up over the last couple of days. So we'll set those aside. Other random progress for the week. I actually did some building. So I was building more zombies. Ooh, I know. We're gearing up for one hell of a spooky fall, guys. Let me tell you right now. Between the zombies and the start of my battle reports, and a bunch of the other stuff that I've got coming along down the pipeline. So a lot of these are converted in some minor way. So for instance, the banner here is from the Skaven Plague Monks, and I just cut the hands off of the zombie banner and tucked them on here with like a little torch that I got from another kit entirely. So yeah, there's just, like I said, little minor conversion work on pretty much all of these guys. This guy's one of my favorites. He's real goofy. I gave him a pirate peg leg. It's not quite shaped properly. I've got to get in there with a little hobby knife and do a little bit of carving. And then I took the cross beam from the banner, which is a couple of wooden poles with zombie hands on them, and put those on instead of arms. So he's got peg arms and a peg leg. And you can't really see, but his eyes and mouth are stitched shut too. So he's a really unfortunate zombie. He's having a real bad go of it, but you know what? He's persevering, and I feel like there's something to that. So we should feel for him. Anyway, so then like just kind of traditional grumbly zombie. And then this one, I need to do a little bit of work. So with this sort of bunch of guys in general, I am trying to kind of push myself and learn some new stuff and get out of my comfort zone. So one of the things that I'm not particularly good at and have never really dabbled with, which is why I'm not any good at it, because I've never really tried it and stuck to it, is green stuff. Now, for those that don't know, green stuff is essentially a two-part epoxy putty, like a sculpting putty. And it comes in like a blue and a white, or I'm sorry, blue and a yellow. And then you mix them together. Obviously that makes green, thus the name green stuff. That is actually the name of it. It's just called green stuff. But when you mix it together, you've got like a little bit of working time with it to sort of like sculpt it and put it into place and do whatever you're going to do with it, and then it dries hard as plastic. So it's like really durable and really good for all kinds of stuff. So anyway, so this guy, I took like a random severed head from a different kit and kind of like glued it on top at a weird angle. To be fair, this isn't my idea. I stole this from somebody else because I thought the idea was brilliant. But what I'm going to end up doing is sculpting on what is essentially his neck with a big slash through it. So it looks like he was partially decapitated and his head is just kind of lolled backwards, just kind of staring at the sky, shambling along, you know, like zombies do. So anyway, so I did some building, is the sort of Cliff Notes version of that. I built some stuff. I painted some stuff. I have waiting in the wings, not for today's work. I didn't want to work on zombies another week in a row because I thought that might get a little redundant for me as well as for you. But I do have 5 more. This is, by the way, you can see the crossbar here on the zombie banner. This is literally what it looks like. There's no like actual flag or anything. It's just kind of like a weird thing. But anyway, so I've got this guy and then, you know, some other guys, and they're all like primed in my sort of, well, not I didn't invent it, but they're all zenithal primed, ready to go for sort of the techniques that I was using on last week's stream. All right, what else did I do? There's some other stuff. So I was working on, oh, that's not actually glued on. Anyway, I was working on some little bits of scatter terrain. So this is going to be like a little shrine to the dead. It's got some little tombstones on it. And it's basically just on a small cavalry base so that I can just put it somewhere on the table and just be done with it. I'll put some texture paint and stuff like that on the base. I have currently 2 more. So there's this one here as well, which is just a little grave. And then I have another one to accompany it. Again, just a little grave. My plan is to make probably, let's see, I've got like 3 more probably to make, judging by the number of headstones that I've got to work with. So, yeah, they'll be coming along at some point. And then I'll probably, once they're finished building, which they're not, like, I'm going to kind of add a little bit of stuff and still need to put a bunch of texture and whatnot on them. But once I do, then those will get primed up, and I'll probably end up painting those on the show here at some point coming up. Oh, why did I leave the desk? Let's go back down. So I just finished working on sort of the base coats for this guy before the stream. So this is one of the Vargeists that I was super excited to get in off of eBay recently. So he's a little blown out with this lighting, so let me pull that back a little bit so it's not quite so intense. So I did a zenithal approach to this as well, and this is basically just the base coats on his skin and a little bit of highlight, all done with airbrush before I went live here. But basically this was a gradient, like a 4-color gradient, starting with, let's see, this like dark or sort of mid-tone light gray, blue gray, called rust gray from Citadel. And then I worked up through the following colors. I went with Fenrisian gray, which is, you'll notice that they're all kind of blue in tint. So there was Fenrisian gray, and then blue horror, and last but not least, Ulthuan gray over the top. Being just a cold white, it's just got a hint of blue, but mostly white. And the idea was to give him a very pale skin tone that was securely in the blue spectrum. Then what I did is, one of my favorite artists refers to it as the anti-zenithal, but it's actually called, I think it's called like Nelidial highlighting or something like that. It's basically the opposite of zenithal. So zenithal is coming from the top, nelidial is coming from the bottom. So I took, what did I use? I think I used the Dark Reaper here, which is a much darker blue-gray. So I took this, and I really watered it down. I used a lot of airbrush thinner and flow improver in the mix. And you can't even, like, I put a glaze of it on my thumbnail here, and you can't even see that it's blue. You know what I mean? Like, it's super thin. And so what I did was then I shot the airbrush from underneath to sort of knock back some of the highlights that were on him and to, you know, increase the contrast in the shadows by, you know, really driving up those shadows. So you've got the really bright highlights and the much darker shadows by contrast. So I'm really happy with the way that the skin came out. I then came in and did, and I think I'm happy with how it turned out. It probably could have been a little bit smoother in application. I was kind of rushed when I was doing it. So I'm not like 100% happy. We'll call it like 95% happy with it. I took, where is it here? Drakenhawk Nightshade, which is one of the shades from Citadel, and it's like a dark blue. And I thinned this out with a little bit of just clear medium, and so that it was, again, just a very sort of like hint of blue, dark blue. And I used that as an all-over wash on the skin. My hope, and it turned out pretty much like this. It didn't shift the surface colors very much. It left them pretty much the colors that I had them, but it did settle nicely in the recesses and add a little bit of depth to some of the recesses and the shadows. So yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with it. And what I'll likely do, not now, as much as I would actually really love to do it right now, but what I'll probably end up doing is taking a little bit of that Ulthuan Gray and a large dry brush and just giving him a top-down dry brush with that, just to kind of pop those highlights a little bit more and bring those out. So then my plan is the wing membranes here are going to be done in a desaturated purple, much like, I don't have it with me and I don't feel like getting up away from the desk right now to go get it, but I have my zombie dragon. You can find pictures on Facebook and maybe, no, probably not on Twitter, but definitely on Instagram. You can find pictures of my zombie dragon, which isn't actually finished yet, and I need to do that soon. So he'll probably make an appearance on the stream in the next few episodes. Definitely sometime in October, just because I feel like a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon needs to make an appearance in the month of Halloween. And if it doesn't, I feel like I've done something wrong with my life. But anyway, so his big mohawk of tuft of hair here, as well as his hair on the backs of his haunches, and what I assume is his loincloth of fur. That is all going to be in a similar purple, I believe. So yeah, it's going to look good, is the short answer, I think. And I'm really happy with where he's at right now. And he will hopefully look good when he's all done. Okay. I think we're finally done with hobby progress. So actually, I guess what I said at the beginning of the show about not getting anything done over the last couple of weeks, I got actually more done than I thought I did. It was all little stuff, and it was like preparation for projects more so than it was actually completing anything. But hey, progress is progress. I'll take it. So for tonight, the main event for tonight, I am going to be picking up where I left off on this guy. Some of you may remember him from early in the stream. Bang! So we are going to be working on the Krusha today. This guy's been sitting on my painting desk for ages now, months, sitting at this level of completion. So very nearly done. There's just like some minor things that need to be done, and he will be essentially finished. Then I just need to do the rider, which is a separate issue entirely. But if I can get this done and out of the way and off of my painting desk, then that will be huge, because I have a toddler and she can reach things on my painting desk, and the last thing I want is for her reaching up and grabbing this thing off, which isn't even mine. It is a sort of a commission for a friend, so I don't want her getting her grubby little paws on it and smashing it into little pieces or something. So anyway, that's I guess neither here nor there. So this is what I'm working on today. So I'm going to work on getting this guy at least closer to completion than he is now. And I was sort of giving him a once over. I need to bring up the highlights on the horn a little bit more on pretty much all of him. So that's one of the major things I'm going to be working on. The armor plating, this needs some attention on the wings as well as on the tail here. The leather straps, black leather straps, need to be highlighted. And he's got a little septum piercing, and what side is it? This side, he's got a couple of little earrings. So I need to paint those. Some kind of steel, I'm assuming, and then I need to paint his eyes, and then he will be done. So not a ton to do in the grand scheme, but it will probably take me the majority of the show, if not all of the show, and then a little bit extra, just to kind of make sure that it's good and done. So yeah, that's what we're dealing with today, folks, and I'm actually pretty excited. I do really quite like this model, and someday I dream of having an Iron Jaws army of my very own, but that day is not today. I may actually at some point, and this is the first I've mentioned it, I have a very small corn army that I'm just not motivated to paint it. I just don't really care. Like, it was, I don't think it was a freebie. It was part of the original box, and that's the only reason I've hung on to it. The original, what am I saying? It was part of the original Age of Sigmar box. There we go. Words are hard. And so my buddy Jason picked it up. He wanted the Stormcast half, and he gave me the Corn half because he wasn't particularly interested in it at the time. And so I've had this laying about, and I painted a couple of the models for it. Those can be found on my Instagram if you scroll way back, because I did them ages ago. But I just, it's not an army I'm super in love with, and I've been hanging on to it because I knew I was going to do battle reports, and I figured it would be a good idea to have as wide a variety of armies to pull from for purpose of battle reports. That's literally the only reason I hung on to it, was because, I was going to hopefully share it with other people someday. But that being said, I have not put any effort into painting it as of yet. So it's not really going to be making an appearance anytime soon. And I kind of feel like it's just taking up space. So I may end up wanting to sell it. Which will clear up some space for an army I'm more interested in, which may prove to be iron jaws, or it may be something else. I haven't really. I've actually had my eye for quite some time now on my very own Sylvaneth army, the tree folk and the dryads and all that, and I really am jonesing for one for some of those guys. And I've been holding off. I haven't pulled the trigger on it because I have a bunch of stuff that is all, in various forms of incomplete. And I didn't want to add to that list. I didn't want to add anything new until I had finished up some of what I have currently. And I have, just to be clear, I have I would say an obscene amount of minis, not all of which are Warhammer. And that's the thing, like, a lot of them are D&D minis. A lot of them are, I have, again, hung on to because I knew I was going to be doing battle reports at some point. And I didn't want to be like sort of pigeonholed into doing nothing but Warhammer. So I inherited a bunch of War Machine and Hordes minis from a gentleman that was looking to get rid of them. And so I have those sitting in the garage, untouched and unpainted, just kind of hanging out. And while they are reasonably well stored and, sort of out of the way, they are still, like in storage in the house, taking up space. And I acknowledge this. Like, my wife is less than enthusiastic about the sheer quantity of things that I own. And that's not a dig at her either. I just want to be clear about that. As I have already stated, I know that I have more than I need, and I've already pared down quite a bit. I was given like a huge windfall of miniatures from a friend's brother, who was an avid collector of all things miniature, and he at one point just kind of decided he was done with the hobby. He didn't have the space for it. He didn't have the time for it. He was done. And initially he was planning to just kind of throw everything out. And his brother, my friend Jason, was like, "Hey, wait a second. I know a guy that might be interested in some of those." So he came to me and was like, "Hey, would you like some minis?" And that's basically how he phrased it. He was like, "Would you like some minis? My brother is getting rid of a bunch." So I thought, like, a bunch of minis? What's a bunch? Sure. Like, it's probably going to be like, what, 50, maybe 100 minis at most? Like, no. This was like I don't know how to explain it. Other than a metric shit ton of minis. I didn't do a head count. I just didn't bother. It was a lot. But not really any of them were minis, or I should say very few of them were minis that I was actually, like, hungry for. Like, it wasn't stuff that I was, like, actually super interested in. There was, like, a fair amount of, like, historical minis, and all manner of other minis too, that I was like, obviously I'm not going, like, I wasn't going to turn them down because I like free stuff. But when I went to go pick it up, I hadn't been given a real I hadn't been given a clear picture of just what I was getting myself into until I went to go pick this stuff up. And I was driving a Honda Element, and I think I had to make like 2 trips to move all of these minis from point A to point B. It was, like I said, just a massive quantity of minis. So, moral of the story is, I have been slowly paring down the amount of stuff that's in my collection from that. I'm well aware that I don't need them all, and I have since gotten rid of many. Some of them have been returned to their previous owner, who had shown an interest in, because he knew I was into it and because now his brother was into it, he was like, well, maybe I'll take some of those back and, you know, do something with them. Which wasn't him sort of going back on his gift. It was more like me saying, hey, are you sure you don't want any of these back? Because if you don't want them, they're probably just going in the trash like you had originally planned for them. So, yeah, anyway. A lot of them did end up going sort of in the trash. Some of them got handed out to other folks that I knew had an interest. But either way, the I haven't because I have so many things that I'm not really even sure I'm going to ever use. I've been very hesitant to really go gung-ho into another army. And also, my brother plays Sylvaneth, and so he has a lot of his stuff here. So if I really want to play the army, then I can. But for me, it's kind of a matter of me wanting to play the army, but at the same time, it's like there's such cool models, and I'm really just jonesing to paint them. And I painted the vast majority of my brother's army, but again, it's not mine. One, and two, the paint scheme that I want for it is different than the paint scheme that my brother wanted for it. So there's still in my head, there is a vision of this army that I have not seen sort of come to fruition yet, and I would very much like to do that someday. So they're on my list. So if I get rid of the Khorne army, then, you know, I'm sort of, personally, at least, I will be, what's the word I'm looking for? Content, I suppose, that getting rid of one army means I can now sort of like branch out, and if I want to look into another army, whether it be Sylvaneth or something entirely different, then I feel like I have earned the right to do so by getting rid of other stuff that I don't necessarily want or need. So we'll see. Right now, by the way, we're working on mostly just highlighting the little bony horns and whatnot protruding off of these wings. Mostly in the form of like just sort of some layering and glazing at the moment. Just working in some lighter colors towards the tips of these. I had already edge highlighted them in sort of a slightly darker off-white. And so now I'm going in and just sort of adding in a little bit extra punch towards the tips. A lot of use at the side of the brush, as well as the tip for some finer lines here and there. All right. Let's get the ones on the tips of the wings. All right. I didn't do this side. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for fun stories right now. But I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, suppose I should mention why I super want Sylvaneth, aside from the just the cool sort of models and so forth. So I've sort of developed over time this, I guess, this sort of narrative in my head, which is a big part of the battle reports that are going to be coming out on my channel sometime in the near future. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But the my undead army, I've sort of built up a lot of headcanon and lore surrounding that army, and some of which is, it's a vampire and his army living in a castle somewhere, and like all haunted vampire castle kind of things, like all spooky castles in good, like, classic horror movie tropes and so forth, it's in a haunted forest, right? Like that's just what you do when you have that sort of, like, pervasive evil in an area, being the vampire and his, like, vampiric corruption that is just sort of seeping out into the landscape, and he's pulling all of these undead to him. He's got a coven of necromancers that are running around, like, raising the dead for him to, like, sort of help control this massive army, right? And somewhere along the lines, there's these just sort of vengeful spirits. And I have a small night haunt army as well, and they are they factor into this in a way. So the night haunt are essentially just like spirits and ghosts and whatever, right? But these the idea is that there's this giant, like, forest that surrounds the grounds on which the castle is built, and this forest, these night haunt or vengeful spirits or whatever, basically found out that they could possess the trees, and so it's just a bunch of ghosts hiding in trees, using the trees to, like, walk around and exact their revenge on the living. Which I think is, like, the coolest idea. That it's not far off from, like, the actual lore of the army, mind you, but the flavor of the army, I'm going to be painting them very much with the sort of, like, the haunted forest vibe in mind. So they're all going to be painted sort of accordingly. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just, like, super looking forward to it. I remember why I sort of put this guy down for a while, aside from the fact that I had, like, things for battle reports that I really wanted to work on, like my undead army in general. Like, I knew that was going to be featuring as my army for a lot of these battle reports, and so I really wanted to get as much of that army finished as I could so that it would be presentable in these battle reports. That being said, there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of edge highlighting on these, and I don't hate edge highlighting in theory, but when there's this much, it is just real tedious. And so trying to get through it quickly and efficiently is kind of a pain. But I promised a friend I would do it, and I am a man of my word. It may have taken me a good amount of time, but we've also been in the midst of a pandemic, so it's not like he was getting out and getting into any games, and he specifically told me that there was absolutely no rush on this, and I could take my time with it. So I did. But now I'm looking to finish it up. All right. So I'm basically taking small chunks. So I started by doing the, up around this shoulder here. And I did, both of the wings are done for this step. So I started doing this shoulder. Now I'm doing this leg here. And then I will do the other shoulder and the other leg. Just to get those done, and then we'll do the head and then down the back. At least that's the plan. And there's no particular reason for why I chose that order. I don't think. It just seemed in my head like that made a lot of sense. So we are again making heavy use of the side of the brush to get as sharp an edge highlight on a lot of this as possible. So we're just kind of like running down the very spine of these, which come to a nice point anyway. So when you're just writing the side of the brush over it, you get like a very thin, very precise line, because that's the only thing that's touching the brush, is that very thin, very precise line. Provided you are not overloading your brush, which sort of is its own pitfall. But that's why I keep this paper towel handy, so I can sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Leach or blot or, I don't know, something. I think all of those kind of work. Void the brush, I guess, maybe? I don't know. You're just basically, oh, that's the word, wicking. That's what I was going for. Yeah, you're just wicking off the excess onto the paper towel so that it doesn't run wild on the model. Again, both sides. Alright, so that leg is Dunsky. So we're just gonna flip this over. start on the other leg. Yeah, these Vargeists, I'm pretty excited to get them painted. I showed off the one that I started at the beginning of the show, and I'm very eager to put in some work on them. I'll be happy just to get like 1 or 2 done. I've got 3, so it's not a huge stretch to then finish the bunch, I think. But I'm trying to nail down, like I spent so long trying to figure out how I wanted to paint them in the first place. Like just trying to work out a scheme in my head that I thought was going to look good on them. And so part of what I'm doing now is using this one that I've painted as a sort of a test model to see if I like this, because in my head I think it will look good, but that's not always the case. Sometimes what you think is going to look good in your head when you actually get it done is a little questionable sometimes. Or maybe it's just not done. You know, you learn something along the way that helps me, you know, do it a little bit more, I guess, effectively for like a second go round, which is another one of the reasons why I chose to the individual Vargeist that I picked to start painting was my least favorite of the 3 sculpts. And that was very much an intentional choice, so that if I somehow managed to completely screw it up, you know, I wasn't ruining my favorite one right off the bat. So, let's say, not a bad idea sometimes when you're testing out new things. Maybe don't try it on the one that you're super excited to paint. Try it on one that's like, you know, just kind of one of the bunch, and then that way it kind of hides your mistakes a little bit, hide your crimes, as they say. All right, that leg is done. This is actually going, I mean, it's not a super quick process, you know, but we're making some headway. I'm not dissatisfied with the amount of time this is taking. I don't remember if it was today. It might have been today that I thought about it while I was driving around at work. But I would like to. I'm going to reach out, I think. I don't know why I'm so nervous to do it. I think it's just because, you know, I've never done it before, and I just kind of feel awkward doing it. But I'm going to reach out on YouTube here in like messages or PMs or something like that, because I don't know a better way to go about it. To a couple of my favorite artists that do music that I would like to feature on the stream here, and basically ask them for permission to use their content, obviously giving them credit and so forth where applicable. But while I, sort of enjoy some of these royalty-free channels, like this is just like royalty-free meditation music, which I guess is fine, but it's not really what I'd like to be listening to right now. So I figure, what harm can it do, really? Like, the worst case scenario is they say, no, you can't do that. And then I'm no worse off than I am now, right? So it doesn't hurt to try. But for, I don't know, just for the sake of not wanting to put myself out there like that, I just haven't gotten around to it. Haven't done it. Sort of putting it off. But it's something I'd really like to do. Maybe even like just this weekend. Obviously, I'm not going to stop and do it now because I'm in the middle of the stream, but definitely like to at least try. I know I pulled this guy way out of frame here, but some of these horns, trying to get the right angle is not something I can do on camera. So I apologize. Yeah, we're kind of managing to keep this in frame tonight. That's a plus. Oh, and actually something else I thought of today while sort of cruising around at work. I'm going to put some thought, at least. I don't have anyone specifically in mind yet. I mean, I guess I have a couple of people that would probably be my first asks. But I'm contemplating, at least for these streams, trying to get like a co-host. Just because I think somebody else to sort of bounce ideas off of and get a little bit more interaction and feedback would be beneficial to the stream overall. And for those at home watching, would probably make it a little bit more interesting than just sort of me talking the whole time. So, I don't know. Again, I'm not 100% sure who I would ask, but I have a couple of friends that I'm going to reach out to and see if they would have any interest in doing that. It is obviously, doing this essentially every Friday. It is a fairly large commitment, so I would understand if it was not something people were super into the idea of, but But I'm also not sure how comfortable any of my friends would be with necessarily being like on camera like this. Put out to the world. Oh, and something else, sort of, I guess this probably would have qualified as news, at least like sort of like where the stream is concerned. I am waiting currently on a new motherboard. So I went ahead and ordered a while back the... Oh, that's looking much better. The parts I needed for my computer, specifically, I picked up a new processor, a new motherboard, and some new RAM. I have since gotten in the processor and the RAM. I also have a video card that I got several months back, and that's waiting in the wings. And yeah, so I have some upgrades to my computer coming. Like I said, the motherboard I'm still waiting on. I was given a window of like 8 to 15 business days to ship. I have not been informed that it has even shipped yet, and it's coming from overseas, like China or something like that, I think. Yeah, I'm definitely sort of waiting for that, because I can't attach anything else until I get the motherboard. But what I'm trying to get at here is that once I am upgraded and my computer is less likely to crash and so forth, I'm going to be changing... I'm going to be switching up my streaming platform a little bit. Instead of streaming direct to Facebook Live, I'm going to be switching back over to YouTube as a streaming platform, and trying to grow the YouTube channel. But I'm also probably going to expand to Twitch and see. I'm going to be looking into a little bit more simulcasting to Twitch and YouTube to try and like hit as many potential viewers as possible. And then Facebook is likely going to be just for... Facebook is likely going to be just for sort of promotion and community building. So I'm going to be building likely a page, Facebook page or group or something along those lines that will serve as a means of communication and a place for me to share information, as opposed to doing it on my personal page, which is what I'm doing right now. And I just think that will be overall sort of a better way to go about it. So yeah, I don't have a time frame yet because, like I said, it all hinges on when I get that motherboard and my computer is sort of upgraded, and what options are out there for multicasting and so forth. I did look into it a while back when I sort of first started, and the reason I didn't dive into it then was I really wanted to be streaming on Facebook Live because that's sort of where, you know, the easiest, you know, viewer base would be, because I have, you know, friends that are already sort of interested in this kind of thing, and it would be easy to sort of get them to actually watch that way. And I was pretty sure that I would get more sort of viewer interaction by doing that. That has proved to be not necessarily true. While I do get some There's not a ton of viewers here that are necessarily super chatty all the time. But there's also a lot of features for YouTube Live, or Facebook Live rather, that I'm just not super keen on it as a platform. So yeah, I'm going to be, once my computer is, sort of fixed up a little bit, I will be switching to YouTube, streaming there directly, as well as most likely Twitch, and sort of doing a joint stream. Part of the problem too, as I see it, is my interest and my hope and my sort of goal with a lot of this was growing a YouTube channel. And since I don't, as of yet, essentially the entirety of my content on YouTube are these live streams, it doesn't make a ton of sense, I suppose, to stream on Facebook, because anybody that watches it the first time around is going to do so on Facebook, and then most folks aren't going to go rewatch me painting whatever it is I'm painting, especially when I'm grossly out of frame like I just was. So as a result, I don't get a lot of either repeat views or views on YouTube anymore. I got substantially more when I was actively streaming on YouTube, because people were actually tuning in and watching it on, live on YouTube. So the algorithms and the metrics and so forth on YouTube were a little bit happier with that sort of thing. Even after I have uploaded the stream, if I go and sort of advertise it out and say hey, the new video's up, whatever, I'll get a couple of people that will go and view it once it's up on YouTube, that maybe didn't catch it live. But there's not a ton of traffic. So I think by returning to streaming there, I will hopefully increase that traffic again. So that's the plan, that's the goal, that's the reasoning. So that will be coming in the sort of the coming weeks and months, and I'll keep everybody sort of informed as to when that changeover will happen. So keep an eye on Twitter, keep an eye on Facebook here, and you'll see some changes coming soon. Beyond that, in regards to battle reports, I am still sort of slogging through. I've been so busy with just work and life that I haven't really had a good opportunity to start either filming, and there are some things that I would like for filming. Not a lot of it's software. I need a good or at least a workable video editing software of some kind, which I do not have yet and am still searching for. So if you know of one, let me know in the comments. Yeah, so we're looking to sort of figure that out at some point soon, hopefully, so that I can get rolling on that. But given the ideas that I have for the style of battle report that I want to do, very sort of cinematic and narratively driven, there are certain things that I want in order to tell the story the way that I want to tell it, and I don't yet have those things, and I'm working on it, but progress is slow. So I was hoping to have some of this done and actually have, you know, by like mid-September or so, have something to show for it, and I don't yet. So I'm a little disappointed in myself, but I do feel that I'm sort of doing the best I can. But again, trying to get these things started and off the ground, when, you know, also holding down a full-time job and, oh, by the way, raising a 2-year-old. It's been a little tricky. So I am hoping that, you know, as she gets a little older, this will be a little bit easier to do. But I'm also not looking to put it off until she's like, you know, for another several years. So I'm going to at least get started. And we'll go from there. So little baby steps. Little baby steps. All right. So arms, legs, and head are done. While I'm thinking about it, and while I'm saying things are done, let me... let's do this color. We're going to do Evil Sun Scarlet. That's bright red. A scarlet, if you will. And we're going to use this to dot our eyes with. And then we're also going to use a little bit of, I think, Troll Slayer Orange. Colors I virtually never use. But I want these eyes to really pop, so we're going to get that on the palette. We're going to give it a go. Alright, so we're going to use our red first, our Evil Sun Scarlet. Get that on there. Come in. Fly land on my thumb while I'm trying to paint. Less than ideal. We're just very carefully just poking this red into place on the eyes. I'm going to overshoot it. And get it places we don't want it. Alright. So then we're going to take our Roll Slayer orange, which is a very vibrant, bright orange. And we're going to put just a little dot right in the front middle. And we can see now just how fiery and poppy that is. I like it. All right, now the fun part is trying to repeat the process on the other side. I'm sort of starting from the center of the eye and pushing with the tip of the brush the paint out towards the edges so that I'm always touching down in a place that I know is safe, that I'm not going to get paint in places I don't want it. And then very safely, slowly, and controlled, edging it out to sort of the edges. Fortunately, this is grossly out of focus for you, but you can kind of see what I'm doing. All right, then we're going to grab a wee bit of that orange. We're just going to pop a little dot right in the middle. Well, not like right in the middle. It's kind of towards the front, because otherwise he looks a little wall-eyed. We don't want that. Hopefully you guys can see that on the eyes. A lot of focus, I know, but I don't know. I think it's a nice effect. Looks pretty good to me, at least. Looks good from my house, as they say. Oh, absolutely forgot about this. So, my wonderful libations, the first Shipyard Pumpkin Ale of the season. Oh, I always forget how good these are. Delicious. Yum, yum, yum. Okay. So, we've done the arms and the legs. Oh, actually, I lied. We have to get the reverse side of this leg, it looks like. Looks like I missed it entirely. I didn't get it with this color or the other color. Okay. And we get our lighter color here. We come in and just kind of glaze towards the tips. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but I will call it out now because it seems like a good time. I am, when I'm doing these sort of glazes over the tops here, I am always pulling the brush towards the tip. And the reason is that's where I want the lightest color to collect. So as I pull the brush and let up, where the brush leaves the model, there's always going to be like a tiny collection more pigment than where I first put down and start dragging from. So the idea is that it helps give you like a blend and a gradient when you sort of pull in the direction you want the shading and the highlight to go. So if I was trying to pack shadow in, I would be going in the opposite direction to get the shadow down into the recesses, or if I was, you know, trying to darken down the base of the horn. But in this case, I am working towards, yeah, I'm in frame. Working towards the tips because I'm trying to ensure that that is where the sort of the most pigment and the most of this color collects, is right towards the tips. Okay. Now I think that step is done. Okay. I am happy with it. All right. Another. Another reason. Okay, let's see. We have sound again. We're back with audio. We got some video. All right. Sorry about that, folks. As I mentioned earlier, I'm looking forward to the new motherboard coming in, so my computer will crash less. Because it just decided to completely shit the bed on me. All right. Everything looks like it's back, though. So let's get back into it. Of course, I completely lost my train of thought, so I don't remember what the hell I was talking about. Yeah, doesn't matter. All right. So what we're going to do is, oh, and hopefully this is actually a nice sort of example here of what all this sort of like work has been done. So you can see the strip down the middle is very sort of like, you know, dark and flat, whereas like you can see the nice bright highlights and so forth on the rest of the horn. So it's all looking pretty good. That being said, now we've got to go and do the stripe down the middle. So we're not done yet. Not done yet, but we are getting there. So I'm going to quickly refill some of these paints, or put some more on the palette. Yes. used up a fair bit. Okay. And I think too, while I was waiting for my computer to load back up, I picked out a paint here, Carrick Stone. It's sort of like a nice sort of tan, light brown. I think I'm gonna give specifically the wing membranes here sort of like a once over and like a top down dry brush, just to try and bring out some of the extra detail that's in here. I haven't given it any sort of real, I gave it a dry brush of something. I don't remember what it was, but it really didn't do a whole lot to bring out any of that detail. So I'm going to see if maybe hitting it again with some of this stuff will pop it right out, and show off some of that nice texture. Okay, so anyway, let's get back to highlighting bone. Hooray! I know this all must be terribly interesting to watch, but it must be done. So we're using our... What is this? This is Ushabti Bone is the name of this color. And it's a nice pale sand sort of bone color, as the name might imply. And we are giving all of the nice crispy edges and edge highlight in this color. Excuse me. That was the pumpkin head coming back to say hi. Yeah, so we're just kind of doing our nice edge highlight here on these. And then this is a little bit darker than the sort of the glaze that I've been putting on the tips. So it gives a sort of a nice transition in those areas, I think. Good enough for me right now. Good enough for this piece. I am not trying to win any awards with this. I'm just trying to do a good job for my friend so that he has an awesome model that he can be proud of and I can be proud of. I will say, speaking of winning awards, I miss painting competitions, and that is something I would like to get back into at some point, trying to paint for competition. At least, you know, on like a local level. I don't know that I'm by any stretch good enough to perform in like either like a regional painting competition or like, you know, the international scene or anything like that. But, you know, that being said, I do enjoy a little friendly competition. And so I think before COVID and realistically in the time BC, before children, I participated frequently in local painting competitions, and I did okay. It wasn't amazing, but I managed to place a couple of times, and that was a nice feeling. But since my daughter was born, I haven't really had a lot of time to delve into like lavishing the time and attention on a model, because they were mostly like monthly painting competitions at like the local GW store and stuff like that. So you only really have like a month, you know, roughly start to finish to paint a model, which, you know, to somebody that doesn't have a toddler that they're trying to take care of and raise, that's probably ample time. And realistically, proved to be ample time for me in the past, at least to get things to a level I was not only happy with, but, you know, was good enough to place in these competitions on the local level. So, you know, but I just haven't been able to devote the time to it as of late, and I don't know when or if that will change anytime soon. Probably not. But if I get the opportunity, and then of course, like once COVID hit, it was pretty much all over for painting competitions around here, because all the local stores were closed and all that. A few of the Facebook groups that I'm in, like Maggotkin of Nurgle Facebook group, used to do and is starting up again doing online sort of like monthly painting competitions, where they are sort of the group members compete amongst themselves to sort of out Nurgle one another, which is cool. But again, I don't foresee me having an abundance of time to really take part in that to the degree that I would like to. Let's put it that way. Like, I could probably get something painted up in a month, but it won't be to the level that I would like it to be. It'll be kind of a rush job. That being said, especially with learning to better utilize my airbrush, I am able to get things done, and I've been flexing my speed muscles as of late, and I think I can, in a relatively short amount of time, get a decent outcome. But again, it's not going to be like award-winning level of outcome. Just kind of a decent tabletop quality kind of thing. Anyway, one of the things I think I miss more than anything is actually getting to sit down and play a game. Something it is a long weekend this weekend, and unfortunately for me, at least, my wife is working pretty much the entire weekend. So normally she works Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But the last few weeks she's been picking up extra time on Saturdays, which is good for her. She's making a little bit more money, and she's getting a little bit more stuff done. She's happy, getting out of the house. So it's kind of a win-win for her. But at the same time, it means that I'm getting a little bit less done. I would like, if possible, I'll have to get in touch with some of my gaming friends, but maybe we can get together for a game at some point this weekend. Maybe even just have my brother over. That would be nice. Get a little game in. Do something fun. Something fun and relaxing for me. We had a nice weekend last weekend as a family here. We went up to New Hampshire. We normally try and get up to New Hampshire a couple of times a year, one of which is in September for the Scottish Highland Games. And both my wife and I have some Scottish in our heritage, so and realistically, even if we didn't, we would probably still go because it's a lot of fun. There we go. That little mohawk stripe is pretty done. Here looks like a little bit of help with the contrast area. But yeah, so we usually try and get up at least like once or twice a year, like vacation or something, up to New Hampshire. In this case, it was my daughter's second birthday, tail end of August 28th to be exact. So that weekend we got away to New Hampshire. We went to what was that place called? Storyland, which is like a kids sort of amusement park kind of thing. Definitely meant for young kids, and it was very fun. It was enjoyable. Bunch of low-key rides, and so, yep. But it was very busy, and not stress-free by any stretch. So, all right. Anyway, we are done with the bone. We got the eyes done. We are going to work on... Oh, excuse me. We are going to work on the armor plates. So I was trying to sort of noodle this a little earlier, figure out exactly how I was going to go about these. I don't know that I have a good answer, so we're just going to kind of dabble. We're going to just try some stuff and see kind of what works. I'm going to go for, I think, a wash all over the metallics here in a dark brown to kick things off. Or not the metallics, but the painted metal here. So we're going to use a little bit of Agrax Earth Shade, which is a dark brown wash from Games Workshop from Citadel. And we're just going to kind of apply this thinly, sort of evenly over the surface of these. We get the back too, just so that it's all fairly uniform. Okay. Perfect. So that's one. Now we're going to do the other wing. Yeah, part of my problem was this color in particular is just a very interesting sort of cranberry color, and I was having a really difficult time trying to figure out how I was going to like highlight it and how I was going to shade it and so on and so forth. So I decided that I was going to use this brown as a shade, just to kind of darken it down a little bit, give it that sort of grimy, dirty appearance, because after all, this is orcish armor, and they are not known for keeping their stuff in super good shape. Getting all the edges here, getting around back, Again, we're keeping this thin and consistent layers. We don't want a ton of pooling. It's okay if it gets into the recesses a wee bit, but we don't want it to like pool, especially on the flat surfaces, just kind of in the recesses. But we're okay if it like tints the surface, like that's what we want. And then I'm going to grab, so this is base coated in Chaotic Red from Army Painters. And I don't have a good plan for highlighting this, I'll be honest. So what I'm going to do, I think, is bring in I was thinking about trying to bring in like a ruddy brown, like this Doombull brown maybe. So it's definitely a little more brown, but I'm kind of okay with that, which is one of the reasons we put the brown wash on, so that we can start to move it in that direction, move it in that brown direction, but keep it still sort of ringing as red. I don't know. Maybe doing like a mix of the two of these as like a layer, and then maybe switching over to the Doombull brown as just sort of a straight highlight. Or let's see, look at our red options. Let's see if there's like a brighter. See, the problem is all of the reds that I have from Citadel are all very, very red. They're very bright, very saturated reds. And this red is sort of by default sort of desaturated. So maybe the answer is a desaturated orange to lighten up the red. I don't hate that idea. Maybe that's the idea. Maybe that's what we're doing. That's a little too pink. We don't want pink, per se. Let's try this. You know what? Let's try both. It's just paint. We can always repaint it, right? So, let's take a look. We've got some of this on the palette. Let's put a little bit more of this Chaotic Red on the palette. Just a little. Another little squirt. I feel like actually the combination of these two colors is kind of where we're at. Like, I like the desaturated orangey brown thing I've got going on. Do I have no. No. That's not it. I think it's out in the garage. So the orange color that I used up at the top of the wings here was called Pumpkin Orange, and it was a little bit more, like a little darker and a little bit more desaturated than this. I feel like that maybe that's the answer. And it's a color that's used elsewhere on the model. But that's in the garage. You don't want to get up midstream. I don't know, team. I don't know. We're gonna stick with these colors. I think I like the idea of using these. So we're gonna give these a shot. I think this is gonna work out. So we're just gonna shake these up. And we're gonna take a paintbrush, take a little off of that one. See, and already, like, putting these two colors next to each other on the palette, like, they look like they're in the same sort of ballpark. I'll show you the palette. You can see these two colors here. Like, this is the chaotic red, and then this is the Doomable brown. You know what I mean? Like, they look very, I don't know. They look like they go together well. Put it that way. So I like that choice. I like where I was going with that. So now we're going to try this Squig Orange. This is apparently the first time I've ever opened this paint. Oh, that is a grody. No. It's like all dried up on the inside. This is an old paint that I have never used up until now, but it has been sitting around for who knows how long. And that is, let's try to get something out of there. Yeah, it's like crazy separated, and like most of it is like one big dry chunk down at the bottom. So something tells me that's not my answer. But we put a little on the palette anyway. So here's our trio of colors here. So this is again the chaotic red, the Doomable brown, and then Squig Orange. Whatever I could muster of that. So we have taken our wash is dry, at least on this wing, and mostly dry on that wing. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't do the tail. Let's get that wash out. Let's use that now before I forget. So that way it can dry on the tail while we work on the wings. See how that works? We are trying to make this process work for us instead of against us. We know this is going to take a while to dry, so we'll do it now, and then give it its time to dry and come back to it when we're done with the other steps. This is a very prominent area of this color too, so put that wash on a bit heavy, so we're just trying to go back in and soak it up. Wick it out of the brush. Again, we want to tint. We don't mind a little bit of collection in the recesses, but we don't want any major pooling. All right. I think we're good with that. Okay, so we're going to let that sit. Check on that. In the meantime, we're going to come back over to here. We're going to grab some of our chaotic red. And we are going to sort of relayer flat bits, leaving the wash in the recesses. And that's going to start our sort of highlights. I'm going to edge highlight Now, my plan is to have this be like a painted metal. So on this like sharpened part of the what is essentially like the blade that's all like scuffed up, and you can see that it's like pounded down to like an edge on this side here. Again, let me see if I can get the light to sort of reflect off of this a little bit better so you can see what's going on. So it's like a little flat surface here where it's like bolted on, and then it's like a sheared off chunk of metal. And it's like that on all of these. Like, it looks very much like a lot of the Iron Jaw's weapons, like their blades and stuff. So my plan is to take my silver metallics and basically like paint a good chunk of this in with the metallic, so basically the paint is scraped off up until, you know, like a certain point. But I think what I will do is I'll go ahead and with this Chaos Red, we're gonna, with the edge of the brush, we're gonna catch the sort of the flat surfaces, not really an edge highlight. Don't know, not like a full-on layer. Like in some areas it's going to be a little bit more heavy, but I want to keep the recesses shaded. Sort of an overbrush, I guess. I don't know. We're trying to leave the shade in the recesses. We're trying to get any of and all of the flats well layered in this. And this is going to sort of like set our mid-tone or our base tone or something. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying. Sometimes I think I just say words. But it sounds like I know what I'm talking about. So who knows? Maybe I actually do somewhere deep down. All right. So that's done there. So let's take a little bit of that Chaos Red. We're going to move that palette. We're going to grab a little bit of the Jumbo Brown, and we're going to just kind of mix those together and see what we get. Somewhere in between the two. And we're going to bring this in on... See, I already like this as a highlight color to this. I think this was a good call. Like, it's almost giving it like that Doomble Brown is like sort of like a reddish orangey brown, and as a result it's almost giving it like that sort of like hint of the beginnings of rust. And I don't hate that. In fact, I'm overall pretty happy with how this is turning out. It's subtle, but it's there, and I like that. Okay, so then we're going to take some of our Doomable Brown. We're going to move that elsewhere on the palette. And we're going to take just a hint of that Chaos Red. And then we're going to take some of our lighter, or whatever that was, the Squig Orange. Do more of that Squig Orange. And lighten this up a fair bit. I rather like that. Just kind of, again, edge highlighting. We're covering a little bit less and a little bit less every time we put on a layer. Making sure we get the high points. And I'm going to grab just that Squig Orange next. I'm gonna just hit like the real high points and sharp corners. You guys hopefully see some of what's going on there. I'm actually inclined to take this. First time opening this paint as well. This might be a little step too much, so we're going to be very selective where we put this on. Take a little touch. This is up here. I'll have to get some pictures of this up on Instagram at some point so that hopefully this will show a little bit better. But I think that that looks pretty darn good, all things considered. Considering this was very much a, yeah, we'll see what happens kind of thing. All right, so that one's done. Now let's see if we can repeat that process. So we're going with the Chaos or Chaotic Red from Army Painter. And this is on the, basically an all-over layer on the flat raised areas. Leaving shade in the recesses, but otherwise just just getting a good complete coat over everything else. I'm going to need some more of it. This is kind of a fun color that I don't know. Games Workshop and Citadel have come out with some new or newer paint colors at some point recently. And I'm curious, I'll have to look through and see if they have anything that comes close to matching this particular color. So we're going to get like a nice broad edge highlight. I don't even know if that technically is a highlight. Just kind of painting a big thick line around the edges. Again, we're kind of overbrushing down towards the edge, leaving shade in the deep recesses, but getting the vast majority, I would say like at least 75% coverage on the rest of the plate with that chaotic red. All right, so that's done. Then we're going into our chaotic red and Doombull brown mix. And we are going to get everything with like a decent edge highlight. Again, probably a little wider than what we are going to end up with. Going to hit all the high points and get most of the flat areas. Not all. We want to leave some of that previous color showing. But kind of try and blend it out. Those edges. This really is just a nice subtle shift in the color. Like even just looking at the two of these colors on here, like you can see the shift happen, but it's very subtle. Like you gotta catch the light on it. I kind of like that. Adding to the overall sort of transition. And then let's rinse, make some more of that color up. Point on there. Just gonna hit some of those raised areas again. We're reinforcing this color. Cool. That's done. Now we're going into the three-way mix between the mix that we just had. Well, not specific. It was a, excuse me, slightly more Doombull brown heavy mix. But this has a little bit of the squig orange in it. So we're getting again the nice edges. But not a ton else. Just a little bit here and there. All right. And then straight squig orange. And this is going to be mostly on sharp corners and just edge highlighting. And lastly, just a little hint of that Jacaro orange going to show up. Just a little bit. It's a little too strong for what I'm wanting. So this is gonna sort of dot our corners as our highest highlight color. Not bad. All right. So we need some more of that squig orange on our palette, but otherwise we're in good shape for much of this. And then we just have to do the tail. And then the armor plates are done. Oh, and it looks like we've hit 11 o'clock, which means it should be quitting time on the stream here. But I am really just kind of in the mood to get this done. So we're going to finish the armor on the tail. And then I will go ahead and bounce out of here. So I'm just going to run this a little extra late today. We did have that crash, computer crash. So in a way, this is sort of making up. So again, we are starting out with the chaotic red, and we are kind of doing an all over, again, sort of an overbrush, I guess, where it's not a dry brush, because this is definitely wet. But we're just trying to angle the brush in such a way that the deepest recesses stay shaded. But we are bringing a little bit of this original sort of base tone back to the high points. So we're getting, again, like 75-ish% or more of the overall sort of coverage here. There we go. And then we're going into our mix. We're going to use this sort of in a similar way. We're just trying to cover a little bit less than we did just a second ago. Now, a lot of that previous coat is still wet, which is fine. And basically just means that we're wet blending a little bit as we go here. It'll give us a smoother transition and gradient in some places, which is certainly never a bad thing. Okay. I'll tell you right now, my eyes are getting tired. Been up since 3:30. Hands are still relatively steady. They're kind of combating any sort of shakiness I might be having by moving the brush pretty quickly. Forgot what color we were on for a second there. Just dipped into the wrong color. Would have been a fairly simple thing to just kind of repaint the area. Okay. Just our squig orange. Myself having to blink sleepies out of my eyes at this point. Once this is done, I'm definitely going to call it for the night. But at this point, we are essentially just hitting the super raised areas, which there are quite a few of in this area in general. But we're getting those sort of like raised edges, which again, there are plenty of in here. This is a very sort of textured, beaten metal area. You know, we're getting the tips and the edges and all that jazz with our squig orange. point back a little bit. Paint. Alright. I think we're doing pretty good. I think we're almost done. Our next and final color is going into our Jacaro orange. Just watering that down a little.